So the one thing I got to figure out. Remember, I did that thing of the day about the Africa Twitter account.
Yep, with Weezer.
How do you, if you make a Twitter account that has no followers,
yeah,
and no one's following you, and you're right?
How do you get people to?
How do you make it? Even if you tweet a whole bunch,
you at people.
You just gotta at people.
You at people.
Who do you at?
Apparently
famous
Weezer.
people who are going to ignore you.
You just at Weezer.
Famous people who ignore you. I don't know. Who do I at?
I mean, I was able to
make some novelty Twitter account.
I mean, basically,
How do I
retweet
followers?
when I made a novelty Twitter account. I retweeted my own.
I don't want anyone to know it's my novelty Twitter account.
It's hard to do if it's not.
Because then, what if people attack me for my?
You gotta get a few friends to retweet it, like indirectly.
How do people find the share zone?
I don't know. Or what I've seen some bot accounts or like some novelty accounts do is they just go for a while. Like they just tweet into the wind for like months. And then they try to get a news organization or a nerd thing to link to them. Like, hey, check out this account. And that's the way they've done it. All right. I think we can just go. I think the stream's good. It's got the right bandwidth. Everything's going. The new version of Audition didn't seem to break anything. And we got a watcher, so they'll tell me if the stream's bad. It's Tuesday, June 19th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we got a double feature with Cockroach Poker and Kakerlakenpoker Royale.
With cheese.
I don't think Cockroach Poker Royale actually came out in English. Is your version in German?
I might have read the instructions.
The Board Game Geek only links to the German version?
The boxes that I have
does it say
Cockroach even on the box and in the instruction manual, things are written in both French and English.
All right, interesting.
Maybe I got bootlegs from the South African river.
Yeah.
That's my new thing is instead of saying the name of the website, I'm just like, people are like, where do I buy this? And I'm like, from the South American river website. I saw one floating by in the South American river. There was one getting chewed on by piranhas in the river. That's my new thing.
That's good. I like that.
Mm. It's the same as Professor U. Where'd you learn that, Professor U? I learned from Professor U.
He's a really good professor.
I know. He knows everything.
All right. Cockroach.
He's better than fucking public school and private school.
Cockroach poker. I'm just going to play this back really quick. Make sure nothing weird's happening.
Cock poker.
Poker Royale. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And we got a viewer.
Go away, viewer.
All right. Let me mute that.
Go bye-bye.
I'm leaving the AC on, though, because it's warm today. It has been gloriously hot in New York the past few days. I'm very happy with this situation.
There was a little thunderstorm, though, but it was at night.
Yeah, also, I like thunderstorms. I like thunderstorms.
At night when I'm inside.
If
I'm outside, then I don't like them. But if I'm inside, they're the best.
But I guess my favorite, I want to live in cities for the rest of my life. In fact, I want to live in New York City for the rest of my life. But one of the few things
I gotta become New York old man, where then people say, "Look at that old New York man."
Yep, I want to be that guy who's so old that I know about the subway before whatever future stuff happens.
But you're
to the
old
subway.
Michigan man. You're not old New York man.
When I'm 80, I'll have spent enough time in New York to where I'll qualify as old New York man.
No,
but so the thing that I miss from living in Michigan in the burbs,
see, like I said, Michigan man,
is this thing where whenever there's a big thunderstorm or like a tornado, because there'd be tornadoes all the time. It's not like when that one tornado appeared for a brief instant in Brooklyn and everybody lost their shit. This was like tornadoes were every week. But what a normal person does when there's a crazy thunderstorm is they stay inside, or maybe they go into their basement. What people in Michigan do is you open your garage door and you sit in the garage and watch the storm.
I do that.
You watch the tornado just go by.
I do it from a window.
It's not the same. You're basically outside.
Also, I never had a garage in my whole life.
Yeah. I do also miss having a garage.
I've actually never ever. I've been to people's houses with garages plenty of times.
I gotta tell you,
never once actually lived in a place that had a garage.
I've only ever lived in 2 houses that didn't. They all had garages, but I've only lived in 2 places that had detached garages. Everywhere I lived, the garage was connected to the house.
Yeah, no, that's everyone I know had an attached garage. So it's like I guess my grandparents had a tiny little unattached garage.
Oh,
that
no,
was
my grandpa.
it was on the alley though in the back.
My grandpa pulled a scam. An alley. I lived in a house that had an alley long time ago.
But anyway, the point is, I went to people's houses with garages enough that I knew that when you had a garage, you always entered your house from the door that goes into the house from the garage.
Yeah, the front door becomes vestigial.
Nobody entered their house like through the actual front door. But then it's like, I'm like, why don't these people fucking ever use their front door? They keep using the garage all the time.
Actually, so I got a good aside around that.
Even if you walk somewhere, shouldn't you then use the front door and not the garage door? I understand if you just get out of your car.
Well, if you walk somewhere.
But it's like, we used our front door.
If you walk somewhere, why not use the side door?
We didn't have if you only have a side door if you have a house with a garage-like architecture.
So we had
our house did not have a side door. It had a front door and a back door.
Side doors are, as far as I can tell, I'm not sure if this is true like other shibboleths, but I've really only encountered side doors in old houses in the Midwest and nowhere else.
No, there are plenty of side door houses in the suburbs in Connecticut.
I'm not talking like a sliding glass door like a door wall. I'm talking just like another front door that's on the side.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't just go into the garage.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, my grandparents' house, they built their house. Like, they built it themselves. And the road moved at some point. So, they had a front door that went to a foyer and a living room that was pointed nowhere once the road moved. So, that door basically never got opened again. There was a porch.
Why not replace that door with a wall? Or
they just left it, so there was
a door that you can't actually open.
So there was this living room.
Because now someone can break in that door that you've let rust.
There's a giant living room with a foyer and like a closet and all this stuff, and this giant ass porch that's just like, it's like a wing of the house that no one ever even went to anymore. That door, like, I opened that door once and it like creaked as I pushed it open with all my might.
I'm surprised you could actually open it without a hammer.
It was a really well-made house, really well-made door. My grandpa made it. Mm-hmm. But they had a detached garage, but the garage was a scam. It had a garage door that could not be opened. It was actually a gigantic multi-story woodworking shop that was illegal to build on the land. So my grandpa had a permit to build a garage. And one of the walls just had there was a wall, and behind the wall was a garage door that just looked on the outside like a real garage door that could not be opened.
One of the bread books I have, I think there's a story where the guy was trying to build some sort of bakery on his property.
Yeah.
And they didn't let him, so he moved. Yeah. Because it was some sort of HOA kind of fight.
But then they had
it's
a
just
side
like
door.
In this cookbook about bread, he's talking about fighting with the people in Portland or thereabouts.
But the front door became a side door, and then what they used as the front door was the old side door, but you know what it went to? Because the garage was fake and not attached? Carport.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run into carports too much anymore, except in I guess in some cities you'll see them because people don't have room to build.
So
a garage.
I learned the other day the ultra mega stupid evil rich people in the city they have a thing nowadays where you bring your car.
The car elevator.
It's a car elevator.
Yeah, I saw one of those in Queens.
That will bring your car to your apartment. So you live on the 80th floor of some mega building.
Oh no, I was talking the car elevator where you drive up to one of those like rebuilt brownstones, like those tiny driveways.
No. You live in
and
the
then
mega.
Your car sinks down.
No, we're talking you're in the skyscraper over there, the stick.
Okay.
And they bring your car to your floor in your apartment. And it's separated in such a way that no fumes or sounds or anything will actually get into your apartment.
That's convenient because that means that it's very easy to get the guillotine in there.
You can put things in your car and take them out of your car without having to like go all the way down to the garage because your car is in your apartment. So like you can unload your groceries right from the back of the car and such. And then when you want to drive somewhere, you just put your car, you just push it. I don't know what you do, push the button or something. And then your car goes back down and then you go back down with it. I guess you can get in the car and probably ride it down and then go straight out.
See, here's what I don't get about that.
Right?
If you're that rich, why are you driving?
Oh, I mean, your chauffeur can do the same thing, and then they can unload the groceries.
But they're
and
gonna.
you get out of the car and you're already in your
just saying,
apartment.
if
You
you're that
can't.
rich-
You don't even need the umbrella to go to the front door of the building because you're in your car the whole time, and you get out and you're already in your apartment.
I feel like most people who are that rich would go once like that. They just leave from the helicopter on the roof.
I'm just saying, this is a thing that rich people have in some of the mega buildings in the city, and I'm sure the other mega buildings that come from the future want to compete with those for rich people money will be providing the same amenity.
Yeah, the elevator I was talking about, the one I saw in Queens, is you drive your car into the tiny driveway, and then the driveway just sinks down, and then a cover comes over the top.
No, that's not it.
I saw one of those like out in Queens, and there was like way
Sure.
out.
I mean, that's nice, but that's not a rich person. That's just at least it's not a wealthy person. That
Yeah,
might
that's
be,
not- I was about
that
to
might
say.
be a rich person. That's not a wealthy person.
Yep. So in the news, the Overwatch League, which I watched the games, but again, I literally do not care who wins.
I
because the
want New
teams-
York to win because they are called New York.
Yep, I want New York to win because I want other people to say, "Oh, that New York team."
And as far as I know, so far, the New York team has not had any revealed shitheads on it getting suspended for being a dick, unlike
Even-
some of the other teams have.
On top of that, the New York team
If they
is
had,
so much
I
better
would-
than all the other teams. It's a joke.
That's just is that by chance? I think it's by chance because the New York team is, I believe, all Koreans.
I think it's more by Moneyball. I think it's a Yankees situation.
The point is that the New York team has nothing to do with New York beyond its name.
So the New York's differential
whatsoever.
for tiebreakers is plus 83. The next team down, the Valiant, is 36. So that gives you a sense of the differential numbers. In terms of their records, New York went.
At least that means Overwatch has a high skill cap.
Yeah, New York went 34-6 for the season.
What was the next best record?
27-13.
Uh-huh.
And it's all real close in that middle tier. But down at the bottom, so Florida Mayhem was second to last. They only won 7 games.
Yeah, good.
But the Shanghai Dragons already have set a record. Like, so it's the first year of the real, like,
Are they
competitive-
O? Are they O end?
They're 0-40.
They have not won a single match.
They did not win a single match.
Even against the Florida team.
Nope, the Florida team beat them every time they competed.
They couldn't even win one match against the Florida team.
In the map breakdown, meaning individual maps.
How did they draft these players originally?
I don't know. I do not know why Shanghai
I don't know
Dragons
how
is
the
so
teams
bad.
were constructed originally. It just sort of appeared, right?
I didn't watch any
I don't think
matches.
they like published any of that information. Really.
I didn't. I only watched games that happened to be on. Like oh, Overwatch is
Yeah,
on.
me too. Same thing.
So-
like I would I would open up Twitch, be like, "Is there anything streaming right now?" And if I saw it there, it would usually be on the front of Twitch.
So I ended up seeing some Spitfire and some Philadelphia, but I didn't actually see any Shanghai Dragons games.
I did not see any Shanghai Dragons.
I want to go back and find when Shanghai played New York and watch that game, and that's what I'm going to do tonight. I think.
All right, go. See what happens.
That's like watching the Buffalo Sabres play against literally
Well,
anyone else
I
in
think
the
what you want to do
NHL.
is watch Shanghai versus Florida and see, what the difference is that made Shanghai so bad.
Yeah,
Because Florida is still bad.
couldn't even win one. Like not one game.
Like I haven't even played
Buffalo
Overwatch.
won a hockey game or two.
Like
along
I've
the
never
way.
played Overwatch, and
You should.
I mean, I haven't played FPSs in a while, but knowing this, I feel confident. Like I could be a somewhat okay addition to at least the bench of the
Scott,
Shanghai team.
I'll say this: I'm confident, despite having not played FPSs in a long time and having not played Overwatch.
I'm also confident I wouldn't probably even hit anyone with a single bullet on the New York team.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you did the competitive ranking now,
I'm
having not
also
played the
confident if I
game,
joined the New York team, I wouldn't sandbag them so badly that they would lose.
I think you would.
They're so good.
I think you would sandbag them so bad. The
Not against Shanghai.
Yeah, it's hard to say. One bad player can really ruin a team.
Me and the rest of the people in all New York against Shanghai, I think we can win.
Only if you stayed in spawn. Don't go out of spawn.
If it's me playing basketball with LeBron, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Shaq against, the Phoenix Suns,
yeah,
we're going to win. That's what I'm saying.
but I'm pretty sure if
Just
you
don't pass me the ball. I get in someone's way occasionally.
I'm pretty sure if you just picked up Overwatch and played it today, like if you just went home and did the ranking matches for the current competitive season, pretty sure you'd be silver, which is already better than a huge percentage of Overwatch players, which is terrifying. Meanwhile, silver is considered like unworthy of playing with.
Well, I'd probably have to ask Professor Yu, what the strats are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, basic team coordination and basic FPS skills will get you a long way in this game. Like, you would do better than a lot of people. So yeah, Shanghai, I don't know what happened, but the playoffs are in July. The brackets are out.
When did the season start?
I don't even remember. But
Did they
in
get
July,
this? It feels like it's been going on a long time. Like, did this take longer than a year?
no, but they did 40 matches. It took them a while to like, get the teams going.
Yeah,
so,
it's a lot of matches for not a lot of teams.
New York and LA are the division winners who are seeded in the tournament and get the buys or whatever.
Get a bye, yeah.
And the wild cards are Boston, LA, London, and Philadelphia.
It's nice to know that things like the last time I checked the standings, it was New York and London.
Yep.
So it's nice to see that the teams weren't so static and just like it wasn't a foregone conclusion what's going to happen. Like, even though it seems like New York's going to win, they could lose.
Also, there was a race for the wild card slots. The Seoul and Houston.
Definitely. If you like, other than the top, those middle teams is always a lot of action going on.
Well, you know what? Kind of like we talk about.
It's a lot like the NFL in that way.
We talk about in game
like
design.
an NFL playoff.
You need a bad team or a bad experience sometimes to remind you what it's like. Shanghai is the super aguri of this.
The Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
You need a Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, you need a Newman. So, in some other news, and this one's really funny to me because I don't care.
I also don't care.
But Fortnite, like it or not, decide the game is good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's the biggest game now. Like, you cannot, it is big. There's reasons why it's big. It's going to be Minecraft 2 in terms of like pop culture.
It won't be,
saturation.
you don't have to worry though, because it's not going to be the game forever. World of Warcraft wasn't the game forever.
Yeah.
No game has ever lasted forever, right?
And it won't replace your like better serious games or anything.
No,
like,
games
PUBG
that are big enough, even though they may rise and fall. Games that have at some point been big enough.
Yep.
Once you reach this sort of critical point where your game was at some time large, it lives now. It won't stay the biggest, but it lives. Like World of Warcraft, no longer anywhere near the biggest. It's alive. It is solidly alive. Rocket League is solidly alive.
Your
Counter-Strike is solidly alive.
PUBG is going to survive this.
PUBG is decreasing, but it will eventually reach a point where, much like Counter-Strike, it is just solidly alive. Hearthstone solidly. All these games are just, they go up, they get big, then they go back down, and they stabilize, and where only the people who are dedicated to them stay there and don't move very much, or they keep coming back to that game even though they may visit other games from time to time. And that's what Fortnite's going to do. It's big right now, it'll go back down, and then it will solidify just like the rest.
But an important thing about Fortnite, and this is actually a really big deal, is that it's doing something that we've said people should do a long time. That one panel we did in video, we talked about this a bunch, but more games are doing it, and we're better positioned to do it. Fortnite is on every goddamn platform there is.
Well, because it's built on the Unreal Engine, and it's made by the company that makes the Unreal Engine.
So you can play it on your PS4.
That is an engine that can build for every console and every mobile platform and everything.
So you can play it on your PS4 or your Nintendo Switch or your Xbox or your cell phone.
My brother's into it. He was trying to like get me to join.
Oh hell no!
He was trying to get me to join He's playing on his phone or his iPad, and he was trying to. He sent me one of those messages. I think if I joined, I think he would have gotten loot or something.
But
then he's like, no, he's playing it on the Switch instead of it on the phone.
Because the Switch probably, honestly, having looked at the game, I think the Nintendo Switch is the best form factor for the game.
Not PC.
Not
PC.
It's
an FPS though, right?
Yeah, it's an FPS in the same way that Team Fortress 2 was an FPS.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, it's on. He now plays it on the Switch instead.
Like the Switch is, in my opinion, having not really played the game other than like looking at it, it is the best platform for the game.
I mean, it's also free, so it's like we could try it.
Yeah, but also the
care
game has crossplay in that it doesn't care what platform you're on. It's just everybody play. You have an account. Everybody play.
Yeah, the people on phones are playing against people on PC, right?
You can use your same account. You can have an account and play on the Switch.
Rocket League does that. You play against PlayStation people when you're on PC.
But you can play on the Switch and also play on the phone with your same account and track it like it's all the same.
Well, because that would suck if you got a bunch of, because it's free to play game. If you got a bunch of loot and then suddenly you switch platforms and your loot's gone, right?
So the news, and
I got the same Hearthstone cards on my iPad as I do on my PC.
So the news, and this is pretty important.
If I didn't, that would be fucking bullshit.
It's a bad news because Sony is kind of effed here. All the crossplay works on all the platforms except the PS4.
I don't understand why the PS4 is the one left out.
I understand why.
Rocket League worked, like Xbox was the one left out for Rocket League. Rocket League, it was like PC and PlayStation, and then I think Nintendo Switch did get in there. I'm not sure, but like those are the only two they played together.
So here's the deal.
It's like, why would they leave it out now?
What they've specifically blocked is if you have an account in Fortnite, you can either play only PS4 with that account or any and all other platforms combined forever. You cannot, if an account has ever played on a Switch, you can't use that account on a PS4. And if you've ever played on a PS4, you can't use that account on your Switch.
But if I'm playing on PC, am I going to play against people who are on PS4s?
I don't actually know because no one cares about that. Sony has refused to even allow crossplay between PS4 and rival consoles.
Okay, so that answers that.
For several other games.
But Rocket League, they allow it.
But not anyone Xbox Switch, Fortnite. That's not the news. The news is that they're locking the accounts out. So a bunch of people got Nintendo Switches.
And they said, ooh, I want to play on Switch now instead of PlayStation. But
And
they had
their
already
account is
logged in on
locked.
PlayStation, and it won't let them log in on Switch because their account is locked to PlayStation.
And I'm pretty sure
So if they want to play on Switch, they have to buy all new loot.
I'm pretty sure the reason for this is that Fortnite is the example now. Fortnite is going to be one of the things that breaks the idea of platform exclusives for real because it's that big. And Nintendo has their first party stuff, but they're not going to release their games on other platforms. They don't need to worry about that. Sony, if Fortnite becomes just popular in and of itself and it's the game and kids don't need a PlayStation 4 to play it, they're not going to buy a PlayStation 4.
They'll just buy whatever plays Fortnite.
Yup.
I just need a thing that plays Fortnite. I don't care which thing it is.
And if there's a if the world gets to the point to where the biggest games work on any platform, Sony is the one who's hurt the most by that, I think.
Wow.
Because Microsoft...
PC Gaming Master Race?
Well, Microsoft, the Xbox... They could easily
Any
shift.
cross-platform game is effectively a PC game that is then ported to everything
And
else.
Microsoft, if they were really
Fortnite
pressured...
is a PC game that's been ported. Everything's if you have a game that is running on one of those multi-platform engines, it's a PC game.
But I'm saying Microsoft, the way the Xbox is, they could easily turn the Xbox into just a modified
Microsoft
Windows
seems
10.
to be trying to turn Windows 10 into an Xbox more than
Yeah,
they're trying
and I think they're going to go down that road where eventually
you
Windows
got the Xbox,
PC...
You got Xbox apps and settings in the Windows 10 already.
I think eventually Windows PC will also be effectively Xbox, and I bet they'll sell an Xbox that's actually just a Windows PC with set hardware. I think that's coming. Sony does not have that luxury, and Sony is very, very deeply invested in the idea of platform exclusives and some reason for their platform to be special. And I think Sony's fucked in the long run because of all this.
Well, I think what's also going to happen, right, is...
Oh, people are mad. Sony fanboys are mad. People are I think this is going to really hurt Sony.
I think,
and I bet they're going to back
this
down.
specific thing, I could think there could be a lawsuit coming for sure.
Yeah, and I think so. I bet Sony's going to back down, but I bet backing down is actually bad for them in the long run. But I think not backing down is also bad for them in the long run. I think it's just bad for Sony in the long run.
The two major things I see coming in terms of cross-platformness in the not too distant future is one, all the companies that make games, they want you to stream games and not buy them so that they can control everything and not have any piracy and et cetera, et cetera. And they're going to push for that even if people don't want it or even if it sucks because everyone's internet connection sucks.
Yep.
Right? And so they're going to try to get that, but they won't be able to because internet connections are too bad. And the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to see people are going to start using things like Apple TV, Steam Link, etc. Chrome, whatever's, and now basically all games will be phone games. You just play your phone game on the TV. You won't need the Switch. That's the next generation of console is basically no console. You just whatever device you have just streams to the TV because everyone already has these fucking things. Right? It's like, I'll just play a phone game and Chromecast to my TV. Congratulations.
Yep.
iOS is now on par with a PS4.
And frankly, even the super serious PC gamers, I feel like they'll have a sweet PC gaming rig they spent $6,000 on, but then it will stream to all the other devices in their local cloud. So we'll see what happens with this. Sony is really, really trying to avoid making a definitive statement because they realize they're effed on this. And the statement they released was kind of it was pathetic even by the standards of Sony press releases. In some other news that really affects Scott.
So this is actually a weird news because it's a surprise, but also not a surprise.
Yeah, well, it was not a surprise, but I think the surprise was that it happened so suddenly.
Yes,
and with no warning.
The timing came earlier than expected.
I thought that you saw this coming in the long run, and I expected a situation where they like the game continued to exist, but they were making less and less money on it, and were like fewer updates come out, and the
so
tournaments
anyway,
collapsed.
yeah, back in the day, right? When we came to the city, we were going to board game night, and board game night had problems. You know, people were slow; they weren't playing to win. You had to teach rules. I discovered Netrunner. I just saw this really cool fucking game on the Board Game Geek list. Right? I bought it. I played it. I thought it was just a 2-player card game. Nope. It's actually what you wanted your whole life that already existed and you didn't know. A customizable card game like Magic, except you don't have to collect the cards.
You know, as an aside, I noticed something interesting. Netrunner and
it was
Overwatch.
Cyberpunk, and it was a great game.
Netrunner and Overwatch were both the games we dreamed of when we were young, and now that we're old, they both came out, and we each could only pick one.
Right? So I said, holy shit, I didn't realize that's what this was, that this was more exactly what I wanted, so I got way into it, and I started going to Netrunner instead of going to Board Game Night. So Netrunner... the first Netrunner, I didn't even realize the deal with it, that it was originally that it was a Richard Garfield game for the 90s that went away and came back. Even though when I saw that original box art, I was like, I remember seeing that in the store.
Yep.
Never bought it. Anyway, but the one thing I noticed very early on, I think it was the very first Netrunner tournament I went to, when I saw the prize playmat that they were going to give to whoever won the tournament. It was one of the first tournaments. I don't think the very first one had playmats. There were 3 different logos on the fucking playmat from companies, right? Those Fantasy Flight Games, who actually made the new, current, soon-to-end Netrunner, right? Who also makes X-Wing and such, and are now owned by Asmodee. There was a logo for Wizards of the Coast, which made sense because they made the original Netrunner, Richard Garfield and such. And there was a third one, which is now also relevant, for Our Talsorian Games. Do you know what Our Talsorian Games is?
I do not.
They made the Cyberpunk 2020 tabletop RPG, which is now getting a video game version coming soon, right? It's all in the news that everyone's excited about, right? Because that original Netrunner card game, the theme of it was in that Cyberpunk universe, right? So they had some legal right to it. So Fantasy Flight Games was licensing Netrunner from both WotC and Our Talsorian in order to produce this thing. They were paying this license fee, which is what Fantasy Flight Games mostly makes most of their money on. They have a Star Wars license. They had they previously had the Games Workshop license. What other licenses do they have? Oh, the Game of Thrones license is big for them. They still have that, right? That's what Fantasy Flight Games mostly does, is they get licensed properties and make games based on them. Oh, they're currently publishing T&E, I guess. Whatever. And some other things, Citadels. Anyway, so when I saw that, I said, man, this game, if any of these 3 people, mostly not the FFG one, they're the ones who are making the game, but it's like, any of these 2 other people could just pull the plug on this at any time. We have no idea what the licensing agreement is. There's any moment, WotC could just be like, you know what, we don't want you doing Netrunner no more. The end. All right? So Netrunner went on, and it rose, and it waxed and waned at various points, right? It's been waning slightly. I haven't played it that much in the past 6 months or whatever, but I'm still buying all the cards and following along with the community and seeing what's up. And if I'm really got nothing to do, then I still go play Netrunner. I met a lot of people playing Netrunner. It was good times. And suddenly we see a news on the Fantasy Flight website like a week or 2 ago, jacking out. Netrunner is done. We did not renew the license with WotC. And it's like, on the one hand, I totally saw that coming years ago.
Yep.
But on the other hand, it's like, whoa. You just announced like this new box that's coming at the end of the year. You're in the middle of a cycle of cards, right? It's like you already
So they're going to release that last box, apparently. Rain and Reverie Deluxe expansion.
Exactly. So they got all this stuff going on. This did not... none of the playtesters were like, we stopped getting new cards to playtest. Like there was no whiff of this. So obviously we'll probably never find out what the story was, or it will be we'll have to get inside info to find out the story. I
suspect the monetization stream was drying up.
There's a lot of suspicions that all make sense, so it's hard to know which one is right.
Yeah.
But clearly, FFG wanted to keep this license active, obviously, because they didn't look like they were planning to end it, and they weren't able to reach an agreement with WotC and or Our Talsorian Games to continue the Netrunner license, so they're stopping the game. The end. Once they release that box, it's all over. So there's a few things happening. Number one, the community is forming its own organization to keep Netrunner alive because the community's way strong and the game hasn't waned to the point where it makes sense to kill the game.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all the cards.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not
if
like
you
those
look at some of the
disappear.
other FFG games that did wane, like the Cthulhu one or the Lord of the Rings one, they like reduced the production schedules and did other things to slow the game down but keep selling product and to fade it out. They did not do that with Netrunner. They were still going at full steam when this happened. Another thing that's happening is that all those, they're not reprinting anything because they can't. They don't have time.
Yeah.
So that Rain and Reverie box, I've heard there's a lot of reports that have no evidence behind them, but they're like, man, all of Canada's getting 200 boxes. The end.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is going around the rumor mills. So there's going to be a mad dash of every Netrunner player to like go and get one of these so that they can have a full set of Netrunner, which you're going to need because there'll be no way in the future to get any Netrunner unless you find someone who's selling theirs or something like that.
You couldn't just republish the game or remove all the Android IP?
Well, the Android IP.
Because I don't care. I'll be honest.
This
Like, I
is the
love
thing
the style. I don't give a shit about the
Well, no,
lore.
FFG, the Android IP, that is what FFG owns. They made a game called
But that's the part I care about the least.
They made a game called Android that you can play. They also made what's it called? You got your Infiltration. That's Android.
Yeah, it is.
Right? It's a lot of the art in that and characters are the same as in Netrunner. The FFG fully owns the Android IP. I'm not exactly sure like why they can't make a game just called Android the Card Game and have it have the same rules as Netrunner and tweak it a little bit and just stop calling it Netrunner. Like, I'm not sure which part of it is licensed from WotC, right? That they have to, It's like they've already changed the rules so much from the original Netrunner.
Yep.
It's not like and we know you can't patent game rules.
Well, I think what's really interesting when I step back
Oh, no,
a little
you
bit...
can only patent game rules, but I don't forget. But the point is...
When I step back a little bit, there's this situation, I think, where non-collectible card games have an obvious monetization model of both the collector's market, like the primary market, the secondary market that brings value from like card investment and trading and whatever, and the draft tournaments. Mm-hmm. So there's like three main and merchandise.
They tried to make drafting for Netrunner and no one was into it.
Yeah, but
They
there were
did a bad
4
job.
revenue streams that were highly effective, and the addictive nature of the games also feeds that cycle. But with a non-collectible game, the draft tournaments never seem to work out for obvious reasons. The monetization model for this, there's no secondary market. So the primary market is every player buys every set once.
Right, it's a subscription model, basically. It's like World of Warcraft. You pay $15 every month or two to make sure you have all the cards, and then everyone has all the cards. And I think actually I would really like to see a digital card game do this. Imagine if Hearthstone was just pay $10 a month and you'll have every Hearthstone card, and it's about playing the game. It's not about gambling.
But anyway, in terms of like a non-collectible game like this, I feel like you can't make enough money to keep a big property going and support a community effectively.
You definitely make less money overall, even if your player base is enormous.
But you make more money with a crappier game.
You make steady money, and if your game is good enough, you get what Netrunner had, which is a big community that stays invested. The thing is, FFG, the reason Netrunner even waned at all throughout its life is simply because FFG not producing enough cards, not being active enough in the the competitive community, managing tournaments.
Being active in the competitive community probably costs more than producing the cards. Maybe. It is shocking how expensive
but like
that kind of thing is.
Right, but it's basically like they didn't even put effort into like putting, updating ban lists quickly or communicating with people or letting us know when things were happening. Or it's like, I feel like if you had this model and you just managed it and actually had someone, there were people whose only job was Netrunner and they would communicate extremely rarely, wouldn't answer questions. It's like, this isn't the biggest game, we got Magic and you got Pokemon are bigger, at least Yu-Gi-Oh is probably bigger, right? It's like you should be really, really active in working with your players.
But I would suspect if this business model can actually work in the long run, tying it to a mass market IP as opposed to a core market IP is felt like Game of Thrones is probably a much better IP.
They have a Game of Thrones card game. It never did as well as Netrunner did.
I know, and I wonder why. And
because it's not as good as a game.
Yeah, but at the same time, certain mass market IP, you don't need to make that good of a game to make money with it.
I mean, I'm sure they make money on the Game of Thrones game. It used to, before Netrunner came, that was their biggest card game. The Fantasy Flight makes most of their money on X-Wing because it's the biggest profit margins. But I sell a piece of plastic for like $30 or something.
Look at the esports model. a game like this, the tournament structure and the semi-professional and the professional and the competitive community has to be supported, but also has to itself be a primary driver of revenue, or there just won't be enough money to justify all the effort to do something like this.
Right, I'm telling you, make a digital card game where you pay a subscription fee and you have all the cards, and then you have tournaments online with entry fees and real prizes,
and then every
cash
season,
prizes.
So here's what you do every season.
You go to sit, just like Mario Tennis has those tournaments, right? You sit down and you say, I want to play a tournament. Boom, you pay the entry fee. You're in. You play. Then you get a prize at the
end. But you
end.
set rules. Like, in this tournament, these are the rules for decks. In this season, these are the rules for decks.
You could change the rules every goddamn day.
The restricted list changes all the time.
You don't have to worry about cheating. There's so many things that are made a miracle by having a digital card game.
Yep.
They never made digital Netrunner because the community did it, right? It's like the community did a real shitty job. I refused to play it because it was so shitty. Even the second version they came out with, which is Jinteki.net, so shitty I refused to do it.
But I think the other thing that really hurts games like this is that if they're physical, the vast majority of players will not have other players in their area.
That's what I'm saying, digital.
Yeah, but that's a very different game at that point. It's a very different business model. It's a very different company that has to be involved.
Do both at the same time.
I wouldn't bother with the physical, to be honest. Digital only.
I mean, it depends. Sometimes in the digital game you can do stuff you can't do in the physical game, right?
Exactly.
Like Hearthstone does. But
and then the in-person tournaments are tablet-based.
Yeah, I admit that's what Hearthstone does.
Yeah. All right, I think that's enough news. I don't need to talk about Death Stranding. All right, I got my little bit. I'll skip the GDPR thing. I don't care that much.
No one cares.
But anyway, things of the day. I love nonsense like this, but this is just because Waluigi's been in the news lately because he's not in Smash, which I think is that is one of the worst.
He's an assist trophy.
Yeah, not feeling that. I want Waluigi. I want like a Waluigi protagonist main character.
You can
game.
already be Kid Koopa, your boy. Why do you want to be anyone else?
Because I really like Waluigi as a character. I don't know. There's something about Waluigi. But anyway,
I play Waluigi in Mario Tennis then.
This is the Wakapella chorus singing For the Longest Waluigi Time.
I don't think they're that good.
I think it's okay. I think it's pretty good. It has the appropriate amount of true Waluigi because, to be fair, a little bit of Waluigi goes a long way. And distilled Waluigi is actually toxic to humans.
That's why. If you had the actual voice actor of Waluigi, is it the same guy who does the Mario voice? What's his name?
I don't actually know.
Yeah, if you had the actual Waluigi voice doing this, then it would work. But it's like because it's not a good enough Waluigi impersonation, it falls flat for me.
It's pretty good though.
It ends up sounding like other people, because it strays too far.
So you got to think of the day?
I do. So. Here's this awesome dude who plays guitar. He likes to play metal songs, and he's got a guitar pedal, which, there's like 10 bajillion guitar pedals in the world that are all funky in weird ways, and people mostly just use normal ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guitar pedal is one of the coolest I have seen. What it does is it turns your guitar into Hatsune Miku. It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty good.
You play guitar, but Hatsune Miku singing comes out, and you don't hear any guitar. I don't even know how the hell they did that because you had to control not only the notes but also the words she's saying. I'm sure the video explains it. I only watched enough of the video to see it working. I didn't watch the whole video because it's too long.
Yep. So in the meta moment, the book club book is Emily Wilson's translation of The Odyssey by Homa. We're going to be at PAX West is our next big convention. I hope we'll see you there. PAX Unplugged badges are still on sale. You should go to PAX Unplugged.
I don't know why badges are still on sale. Why didn't you buy it?
You're
wasting your time watching listening to our stupid podcast. Shouldn't you be spending your time?
PAX Unplugged is a real PAX with all the
I know
important
no one wants
parts
to
of
go to
PAX.
Philadelphia, but this is the one time it's okay.
Also, it's pretty cheap to go to PAX Unplugged.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a full PAX. Like, there's a main theater, there's panel rooms. It's just all tabletop, which, that's all I really want out of PAX anyway.
Yeah.
I do like playing. I sometimes like going into like the PC area and playing a little bit of Counter-Strike, but mostly I'm tabletop at PAXs.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cockroach poker.
So, speaking of PAX, we were at PAX East, and I was working in tabletop, walking around, looking at what games.
Looking around.
And I saw some people playing this game, and the game looked mad fun. And I said, "What the hell game is that?" And they said, "It's Cockroach Poker." And they explained it to me a little bit. So then the next day, we're hanging out, playing some games, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the library and see if they got Cockroach Poker, Cock Poker, and see if it's there. And it was not there. So the other day, I was reminded of it. I'm like, oh yeah, that game. So I went on Amazon and I searched for Cockroach Poker, on the South American jungle website. And I saw 2 different ones. So I said, oh no, should I get the original one or this upgraded looking one?
Kakerlakenpoker Royale.
Right. So I go on Board Game Geek and people are commenting like, yeah, there's actually a reason to own both of these. You don't just buy, buying 2 is not redundant. It's not one of those situations like, yeah, you buy Carcassonne and then you buy Carcassonne with an expansion, right? It's like, no, it actually is different, right? So I said, well, they're cheap and tiny, perfect for kind of game for me.
Yep.
I'll buy both. So I bought both.
Now,
And yesterday we played both.
They're pretty good. So designed by actually a designer I'd never heard of. He's from Jacques Zeimet from Luxembourg. He's made a bunch of other games, but I don't think I've played any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Bombaleo, Bad Bunnies, Defeasin' 7.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played any of these, so
maybe you check them out. But anyway, so here's the deal. This
one has the best name, Elephantastico.
So
it's about elephants.
So Cockroach Poker has a lot to do with cockroaches, not a lot to do with poker. It's a bluffing game. So basically, the way it works is you put a card out there, right? And you don't tell anyone what the hell it is. You deal out the whole deck. First player puts a card out there, and you aim the card at a specific opponent. So maybe I aim it at Rim.
Yep.
And it's face down, and I say, Rim, this card is a cockroach.
So I have 2 choices
now. There's 8 different freaking animals in the deck. There's cockroach, rat, whatever,
Yep. So I have a choice now. I can either accept the card or refuse the card. But then, once I decide that, I have to say if I agree with what Scott said it is or I disagree.
Right. So basically, your choices are pass the card along and try to... It's like, I don't know if you're bluffing or not. I'm going to try instead... to bluff someone else, right? So if you bluff someone else, you look at the card, now you know what it is, and then you try to give it to someone else, and you do the same thing again.
Yep.
If you think you know, like, I know Scott's lying, or I know Scott's not lying, it doesn't matter which it is if you are certain, or relatively certain, that you know what the other person has lied or not, if you know what that card is without looking at it, you call them out, and if you are correct, they take the card, and if you're wrong, you take the card.
So I might say, Scott, I accept this card, and I agree that it is a stink bug, and I flip it over. If it is a stink bug, Scott has to take it back, and it goes in front of him.
And if Rim thought, so in that case, Rim thought I was not lying. He thought I, was telling the truth.
And you were.
If I was telling, and then if I was lying, though, he would have to take the card.
Yep.
And basically, the best part about this game is you just keep doing this over and over until one person has 4 bugs or 4 creatures of the same type in front of them.
Or one player runs out of cards in their hands.
Or someone runs out of cards. And the way you run out of cards is because if you take a card in front of you, you start the next turn. So if you just keep bluffing wrong or getting burned, even if all your creatures don't match up into a set of 4, you are playing more cards from your hand than other people, and because you're on the wrong end of the bluff too much. You're getting figured out. So that's just regular cock poker. The interesting parts of the game is that you start off and you don't really have much to go on except for reading people psychologically.
Yep, and you see your hand of cards. Yep. So if I see 7 stink bugs, because I got real lucky.
It's just 8 of 8 different creatures for 6. I think it's a 64 card deck, right?
I think so. Yeah, there's nothing special in regular cock poker.
It's just like 8 different creatures, and there's 8 of each, and that's it. So you can count everything, but as the game goes on, there's more and more face up. So like you see 7 bats, and you got 3 bats in front of you, and someone pushes a card at you and says, it's a bat. Is that the 8th bat?
Yep.
The odds of that are low, but
so it's a little bit of not a card counting game, because all the information you could have is visible.
Yep.
Either in your hand or laying in front of people. And it's a bluffing game, but it's not the it's not like Sheriff of Nottingham where
it's more like Liar's Dice.
Because in Sheriff of Nottingham,
without the luck,
telling the truth is safe and lying is risky. In this game, it's always risky.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the other person to second guess. So it's one, very psychological.
It doesn't matter whether you're lying or telling the truth. If you pass a card at someone, it could come back to you either way.
And
right?
as an interesting politics,
you just need to say a thing and push the card in such a way that they will get it wrong, or take the risk onto themselves and push the card.
So
to
the real
else.
decision is, who do you target? Because they might then retarget it. The card might hit everybody.
Right. When there's only one person left to be targeted, they can't retarget it because everyone knows what it is. They have to decide true or not.
The best part about this game is that Scott will pass me a card. He'll be like, it's a cockroach. And I'll be like, I do not accept this card. And I look at it. And it doesn't matter what it is. And I'll pass it to someone else and say, it's a stink bug. Mm-hmm. I saw one card it got passed the maximum number of times, and everyone said it was something different. Mm-hmm. I love that aspect of the game.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell is the final person supposed to think about this card?
Yep. So
right?
it's not the most in-depth game. It's definitely just a bluffing game.
Yeah, there's no way you can analysis paralysis or anything, because it's like you don't have a lot to go on.
It's like BS or Liar's Dice. Yeah. Like, it's that level
Liar's
of
Dice.
game.
I think it's Liar's Dice without the luck part. Right?
Yeah.
Because Liar's Dice, you literally roll the dice and could get lucky and get like a whole shit ton of ones in there.
And strategically,
you can't get lucky in
strategically, the game is pretty random unless people have really obvious tells or are very bad at bluffing.
Yep.
And it ends up being a little bit of a what you call
I couldn't figure out any great heuristics for achieving victory.
I had a shockingly effective heuristic.
If someone's gonna lie, you're just reading people, though. It's just reading people.
But it worked 100% of the time until I explained it. And my heuristic was, I'll tell all of you now, it only worked if a card got passed to someone else first before it came to me. Whenever someone looked at a card and then pushed it to me, if they looked at it for more than 4 seconds, I assumed they were lying. And if they looked at it for less than 4 seconds, I assumed they were telling the truth. And in my experience playing this game twice, that was 100% reliable.
All right, so this Cockroach Poker Royale, which is not the same game, it's not an expansion.
I believe you mean Kakerlakenpoker Royale.
Right, it is a upgraded and tweaked version of the original game. So it's mostly the same, except they got rid of a few bugs, which gave me a problem because...
Scott lied and said, this is a spider.
I passed a card to someone and I said spider, and spider was not in the Royal version.
Yep.
It was like, oops. But basically, they cut out some animals. They put in a crown version. So there's one rat king, one cockroach king, one one scorpion
They all
king.
just count as like the animal of the type.
Right, but you can now say royal instead of saying cockroach or stink bug, and that means I'm not telling you what kind of animal it is, but I'm telling you it has a crown, and it's just the same as otherwise. But if you end up taking a crown in front of you, however it gets there, there's a penalty pile, so you actually can end up getting more cards.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of want to pass the crowns and make people take them. Right, but if you take a crown, got a royal rat from your hand, and try to pass it off, you could immediately have that in front of you if the other person calls you and gets it right.
So the Royale version basically adds a swingier, higher risk situation to the game.
It also adds these 2 special cards.
Yep.
That are basically sort of like foils that you can sort of confuse people with. Like there's one that's always false no matter what you say.
Yep.
And there's one that is always. It's always true,
no royal,
but
it's never royal.
Right. So if you say royal, it's always wrong, but you say anything else, and it's right.
But the mechanics with these cards are, if you get caught with it, like if you take it and you're wrong about it, you take it into your hand, and you got to play the thing you were wrong about in front of you.
If you have it.
If you don't have it, Daddy 2 in front of you.
Yeah. So there's just a whole bunch of cards that let you hurt people more, but could end up hurting you more, because like anytime you pass a card to someone in this game, it's like you just want that person to pass the card along. You don't want them to guess, because if they guess, it's like you got a 50-50 shot of that card coming right back in your face.
So the game is highly social. Like, it's very easy to just sort of interact and hang out and play at the table.
Yeah, it's easy to learn. It doesn't take long.
Yep.
You can play with 2 to 6 people, but I wouldn't recommend 2. I think 3 to 6 is where it's
It's
at.
quick to play. The game goes on for a little while because there's like
I think it went on for a little while because it had 4 players, so there's more cards in your hand. I think if you had 6 players, it might go. I'm not sure if it would go longer or shorter. Because on the one hand, it'd be harder for somebody to get 4 of the one thing in front of them when they're spread out more. But on the other hand, someone could run out of cards in the hand real fast if they keep getting targeted.
Yep. And
Just
it's
keep
political.
targeting that person who's only got a few cards in their hand.
Yep. Once someone's got 3 rats, like everyone just starts throwing like, hey, here's a rat.
You
here's a
could
rat.
actually, so we could actually, for example, conspire, right? Let's say I start the game and sitting to my, I got Emily and Chris next to me, and I say, hey, let's make Rim lose. So basically, we could set up a thing where I always passed. Oh, no, we couldn't, because as soon as you took a card, you would start.
Yep.
But we could set up a thing to where whenever possible, so basically 3/4 of the time,
The politics of where you direct a card.
we always make Rim we always don't accept the cards and always pass it to Rim last.
'Cause
So he's
basically,
forced to agree or disagree.
You don't want to be involved.
Yes.
Like, really, you just do not want cards to ever come in front of you.
Yeah,
if you
there's
can
really
help
no
it.
benefit to actually like playing. Your best bet is to sit there and do nothing.
Yep.
Because there's only one loser. It's not like one person wins. It's one loser, and everyone else wins equally. So just don't be that loser.
So I would recommend this game. Either or both
It is
of these
possible
games.
if you're not the first player in the game. It is possible for you to sit there and do nothing the entire game and then win.
I would recommend either or both of these games to anyone who goes to conventions and you need games to like get to the table while you're waiting for everyone to show up, or like in between 2 serious games, bust this out. This is also a great game to bust out while you're eating dinner or something at a con.
Yeah, I don't know if you should whether you buy the Royal one or the regular one. It's like the Royal one does add some complexity.
The Royal one, in my opinion,
it wasn't necessarily more fun than the regular one. The regular one was just sort of so polished and pure. So I don't really see them like one is better than the other. They seem kind of equal, but slightly different.
I would say the Royal one is swingier, more random, and there's higher risk in any given hand. That's the only difference between the two.
Yeah, like I'm not like I'm sitting there and I'm about to play and I have to pick one of the two. I guess it's like a coin toss, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on the group. I think definitely though there is an advantage of if you have people who haven't played it before,
Play the non-Royal one first.
Right. If they're intelligent gamers, you could just go straight to the Royal one, no problem. But the regular one is not a baby mode, so it definitely helps to play the regular one first and then play the Royal one. It'll be a much easier transition.
I would also say, though, that this is an excellent game to bust out for non-gamer friends or for family.
Also great for, you could probably play this with very young people. I imagine probably like, I don't know, 10-year-olds could play, maybe?
I think 6 to 10-year-olds could play. 6-year-olds would play randomly and have problems, but I think they could do it. Below that would still be trouble, but young kids can play this game.
Yeah, I'm
Families
not sure,
can play it.
but there's definitely a very young, I'm not sure, what does it say on the box for age?
It says, let's see, 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up. Community says 6 and up.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely, especially the non-Royal one, you can play with young people. Because, like, how are they going to mess the game up, right? It's not hard.
All right, I think we're done. That was good. That was a solid show. Stop recording.